Another week, Rachel. Another week. They're just flying by, these episodes.
Totally.
Yep, gone. It's almost like a magician is in front of us. You know what I mean?
Speaking of which, today's guest, you wouldn't believe, is magician Caroline Ravn.
Oh my God.
Now, of course, that is one of my favorite shows. I love magic. There's nothing like a good magic show to kind of take you back into that whimsical childhood. And I just can't help but really hawk eye zoom in on their hands because I'm going to figure out this trick. But I rarely do.
Yeah. Watch this trick. Watch. You see this pen? I'm going to make it disappear. It's gone. All right. Anyway.
You're not as good as Caroline.
No. She's amazing. We're so excited to have her on the show this week. We just want to tell everybody, if you like what you see here, please subscribe, comment, like the channel, whatever. Each week, we're going to bring you a new episode with cruisers, cruise staff, celebrity entertainers. So much to offer here. We're just so excited to be doing this. Again, just subscribe, like, comment to our channel. And shall we get into this interview? Let's magically get into it. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Cruise Ship Explorers, another episode. We have an amazing guest, Rachel. Who do we have?
We have Caroline Ravn. She has been a lifelong magician. She has worked the celebrity edge, but not only that, she is Stockholm, Sweden's foremost female magician and the most booked magician of all. So I cannot wait to talk to her. Well, I have so many things to pick your brain because you are not only a magician, but you're also a career consultant for other entertainers, not only magicians, but comedians, musicians. And as musicians ourselves, it can be really daunting because you spend so much time honing your craft. That alone takes a while. But then having to get into the business side of things. But we all got to start with the how this all began, story. So I understand that you actually started in theology. You were looking to be a minister. What caused you to pivot?
Sell my soul to Satan for card tricks? That's a good question. Well, if this is the first time you're listening to this and you're hearing me for the first time, it all started when I was very young. It started when I was only 3 years old, when I saw my first trick and I was, hooked for what I thought was life. But after my grandpa, who taught me my very first trick, passed away, I didn't know that there was a place for magic in my life anymore. So I decided to, do something else with my life. So I did the confirmation thing that most people did in my school. So I was 14 at the time. I went to church for a year and I was not a Christian or anything. But they asked me to stay as a youth leader. And I was like, this is perfect. I have to bring out pens and maybe paper and I'll get an extra cinnamon bun. Perfect for me. It's going to be great. So that's what I did. And after I was in it, it was kind of like a language. When you learn a new language, you're so excited in the beginning and you learn so much and you take what is the word for that? You take so much advantage of the situation you were in. And that was kind of what it was for me when I was in church too. So I was doing the youth leader thing. And then all of a sudden it was time to apply for university. And that was kind of the only thing that made sense for me at the time. So I studied 5.5 years in theology school, which is a long time. But then I, changed my mind and went back to my childhood dream and never looked back.
All right. So this first trick, you said there was this trick that inspired you. What was the trick?
It was the jumping rubber band trick. And I still do it in every single show that I do. Even when I do cruises, I bring in a camera and I have, the little table. I bring up a kid and I show them the trick of the jumping rubber band. And it works like this. You take a rubber band and you place it on the base of your index and long finger all the way to the bottom. And then you will snap your hand or snap your fingers on the other hand and it will jump to your ring and little finger. And it looks fantastic. And I showed this to everybody when I was 3 years old. And people did not really understand how grand this was for me. I was so
Isn't
hooked.
That amazing?
Listen, I'm not even seeing this trick and I'm just hearing it. It's pretty grand in my mind. And you do a lot of up close magic. And to me, I find that the most challenging because you're not relying on theatrics or production and smoke. Look at the smoke over here, and no matter how I look at the magician's hands and I'm like, all right, they're not going to trick me this time. I have yet I have yet to figure out a trick.
Yeah. Well, I guess you're not supposed to, they only bring on the best people on the cruises too, because there's so many people who want to do cruise ships, especially magicians who wants to go on, but there are not that many spots. So the cruise people will only see the best of the best. How humble I am.
No, that's amazing.
That
I was going to ask you and I know there's a lot of magicians out there, and, as well as musicians too, we know a lot of musicians. How did you come about, getting introduced to the cruise ships, as well as finding out what the application process to actually get onto a cruise ship? Because I know it's tough.
Yeah, I was lucky because, I wasn't lucky being born a girl, I guess. It was a 50-50 chance. But I was very lucky because I was very known in the industry already. And there is this woman named Misty, who is my agent now. She used to do cruise ships as a magician too. So she saw me in Vegas a few years ago and she was like, "Oh, do you want to do cruise ships? Because you'd be amazing. They're looking for exactly you." And I was like, "Oh, I have no idea what to expect or anything." So I just said yes. And she sent it in through the agency where she's an agent with. And a couple of months later, I got my first offer. My first ship was actually Celebrity Edge. Beautiful ship. And I was so nervous. I had no idea what I was doing. So we spent weeks and weeks trying to create this show, because it's very different to create a show for a cruise ship than it is to just do a corporate gig back home in Sweden. So, my English is quite okay, but it's not my first language. So every time I create something new, it's always in Swedish. And then I have to translate it to English and make sure that it works for a wide variety of cultures and languages too, and also ages.
Yeah, and with cruise ships, you said that it's different for cruise ships versus on land. How is that? Is it just the layout of the cruise ship, or is it the fact that if you have to do more than one show, do you have to change up your show a little bit because you may be performing for the exact same audience?
Yeah, it depends on the cruise line, really. So for Celebrity, usually they only ask me to do one 45-minute show. I do the same show twice in the same evening. So I change a couple of things, but the show is the same thing. But if I have to have a prediction, or if I have to force something, sorry to say, but that's how magicians do things. If I have to force something, I try to force something different for the second show. So if they do come back to see it the second time, they will not see the same things. But then for, let's say, Holland America line, they want me to do two different 45-minute shows. So then they have to be completely different. There can be nothing that is similar. I can reference something that happened in the first show in the second one, but there cannot be any overlays at all.
Wow,
Right.
That's interesting. That's tough preparation because you have to create two different shows.
Yeah.
Now, being an entertainer on the cruise ship, we understand that sometimes they can, they call it a guest entertainer, or you take a contract that's, 6 to 8 months. So are you part of the guest entertainer, or are you more of like a longer contract
I'm a
type
guest
of
entertainer.
Guest entertainer.
Yeah, guest entertainer.
And, for what we've heard, guest entertainers get different, different treatment than, some of the regular performers from, the cabins or where you can hang out and that kind of stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes.
Like how they treat you? And I'm sure from line to line, it's a little bit different.
It is, but a guest entertainer gets all the perks that the guests do. So I'm welcome everywhere. I also get a crew badge, which means I'm allowed in crew areas, so I can get myself a $1 gin and tonic if I want, which is fantastic.
Beautiful.
And I'm always welcome in the bow, and I can go into the officers bar, and there is a coffee space, and there is the crew mess. Welcome everywhere, which is fantastic. But for the people who are part of more of a cast situation, usually they have to do drills and they have to help people to their muster station and stuff like that. And I never have to do that because I'm only there for a very short period of time. Usually anywhere between 7 days to 18 days is my longest that I take on right now.
Okay, so you're not doing those big, long 6-month, 7-month contracts or anything.
No.
Yeah, so that's so I can imagine why being a specialty performer on a cruise ship is so coveted and probably so competitive. So you had an agent to help you. What kind of package did you have to put together? Or did the agent have so much clout that the cruise ship industry was like, oh yeah, we'll just take her word for it? So if I'm a performer and I'm going to grab an agent, what did your package look like? Did it have videos of your performance or past performances for clients and things like that?
In the beginning, they had to rely on old stuff that I had, like corporate work, and I've done a lot of TEDx talks, so they could include all of that too. And press photos, of course, and then I had to write down descriptions of my shows, which Misty helped me with because she knows what the booker is looking for.
Sure.
And then as I started doing the cruise shows, then I always bring a camera with me. And if you are listening to this and you want to create yourself a show reel as a guest entertainer, you can always ask the people in the booth to record your show for you, because they do that anyways for insurance purposes. But they will delete the show if you don't ask to keep it. So all of that footage creates the new show reel, of course. So if
that's amazing.
Yes, I know.
It's such a great because people pay a lot of money to get a good video. You know, so to have them record it, and I'm sure it's high quality as well.
It is.
You could take that, edit it, chop it up, and you have a whole new reel. If you produce a new show, you have a whole nother reel, and that saves a lot of money, being able to have that. And then you could pretty much take that anywhere, whether you go to Vegas or whether you do something on land that's different. It's great to have that. So that's unique, and I didn't know you could do that.
You can. So I'm not sure if you can ask them to use more than one camera to record, but they have multiple cameras in the venue. So if you ask them to record with anyone, I'm sure they can provide you that footage. And that's always how I've done it. So now we have that footage up on the agency's website. So if a client has never worked with me before, they can just have a look at that. But also, of course, since I've been doing this for so long, there are so many reviews out there. So it's easier for the client, if it's a new line, let's say, for them to understand, okay, so her English is okay. She does the close-up. She does this and this. Her show packs small plates big, because that's a big thing, too, because I don't travel with big illusions or anything. So there's never a chance of me losing my show anymore. I've lost my show 3 times. Different story. But not anymore. So you have to learn from your big mistakes, I guess. But I did lose my first luggage in 2019. I had brought a camera with me, and I accidentally left the battery in the camera, and I flew to China. And of course they checked my luggage because there's a battery in my luggage. So it was stopped, and I actually did not get my luggage until about 10 minutes before the show started, which meant I had to create a complete new show with all things I could find on the ship.
Oh my God.
That was so stressful. Of course, I recorded it because I knew that someday I'm going to have this material and people are going to be like, oh my God, how did you do that Lost Luggage Show? And now I can show them what I did. And which is something that I try to inspire other entertainers with too, especially magicians, because we've been doing this for so long, and singers too, We have so much in our brains that are just in there, and we feel like we're so trapped with our props. But I think we don't have to be, because we have all of this knowledge, we have all of these years. I've been doing magic for 30 years, so I have all of this experience. And of course, it was a stressful couple of hours, sitting down and writing down all of the ideas and making sure we have the music and the cue sheets and everything for all the text to be part of this. But I think every single magician who has been doing any sort of performance before, they have enough knowledge. So if all of their props were taken away from them, they can create a new show within a couple of hours.
Yeah, well, that's being a pro. I think you need to put it on a marquee somewhere and label it the Lost Luggage Show,
Yes.
Just in giant light. And that's, we always say, even for people learning their craft, we think that cruise ships are a great place to really, cut your teeth on your craft, because you never know what's going to happen. I know you have your show, but you don't know the audiences, because, they're a little bit different than playing a steady show at a club, where you pretty much know what type of audience you're going to get. Where a cruise ship is completely different. So.
Yeah, or even a client product launch or a client show, you know exactly who the audience is showing up, based on what the client has told you. But a cruise ship, it could be anybody. Yeah. And we've noticed that on cruise ship, the caliber of the musicians, the performers, and even the crowd entertainers, they can flip on the dime. And you really need that experience to know how to do that, because you might have people come in that are either much older or much younger than expected, or a variety of different cultures. So being able to keep everything entertained and have something that everyone can relate to is way challenging. It's a lot more challenging than I think people realize.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to client work, I always know in advance how much they've been drinking, for instance. Like I know I'm going to be after the second course and they have one pre-drink and they have 2 glasses for dinner.
Yeah.
So I know exactly how drunk they're going to be. But for a cruise ship, you have no idea. Like sometimes they'll send me a list, like the entertainment director will send me like a list of how many people from America and how many from Canada and how many suites. Never any suites. But, I will get a list of all of these people, so I know who I'll be performing for. But you have no idea what they've been doing all day. And if we had a long day in port, they're going to be very tired. Or if they put me on the first day of the cruise, so many people have been flying in the same day or the day prior, so they're going to be, jet lagged or whatever. So it's very important for me to know in advance how, as much as I can, how affected are these people from this day that they have just experienced.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're going to get a different crowd. How about like your first impressions of like getting on a cruise ship? Did you have any expectations? I know your agent helped you out, probably gave you a heads up, but was it different? Was it different experience than you thought it would be?
Yeah, I felt like a celebrity right away. Like,
wow.
I really did. Because I came on, I've never been on a cruise before. Like,
right.
I'm not, in Sweden, we're not raised on going on cruises, really. We do have cruises going from Sweden to Finland, but that's like, you go out there to get drunk with your pals, and then you come home 2 days later and you forget everything.
That's the drunk cruise. Yeah.
Drunk cruise. We have that here. So I wasn't ever had this experience of going to, the Mediterranean and going to Santorini and all of these beautiful places. But before I've done my show, people have no idea who I am. So I'll be walking around everywhere and I can go to the Lido, I can sit by the pool and nobody will say anything to me. But as soon as I've done the show, I feel like I am like a public domain in a way. So everybody comes up to you, tells you things that they loved and things they didn't love about this show. And everybody wants to see an extra trick. And it becomes a totally different experience. And that I've never experienced anywhere else before. That was something completely new. Because I think also on a cruise, you get very intimate with people. You sit with them for breakfast and for dinner, and you see them in port, and you sit next to them on a bus. So all of a sudden, we are forced into being a community instead of just people who happen to be at the same place. So I feel like that kind of experience when they come up to, especially experienced cruisers, they have no filter. So they will walk up to you, sit next to you, basically grab your coffee cup from you and be like, let's talk about this.
Right. They just feel like they're your best friend. They saw you the night before and now we're friends. And you're like, I've never seen you in my life except for maybe in the audience, Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely, I know what you mean because, we have a lot of musician friends that perform like bars that they have tribute acts or whatever. And they're specialized where they're going to remember those people in the band. So when they're walking around the cruise ship, they're just coming up. So what do you think of Fleetwood Mac? So they ask them everything about the show they just did last night or something of that nature. And all that person is trying to do is go have a coffee or go to the gym and, move, So it is a different experience than performing at a club because you are, traveling with these people for 7 days or more. Do you get to enjoy any excursions while you're on the cruise? Go out and explore?
Yeah, I usually don't go on the cruise excursions. I used to before the pandemic, because then we were allowed to do the excursions for free if we offered to help people on enough buses and getting to the tour guides and whatever. So that was a great perk for us guest entertainers, but that was unfortunately taken away after the pandemic. I'm sure it has to do with, they lost so much money and also it's a safety thing and whatever. What happens if we get sick, and, all of that stuff. So we don't get to do that anymore. But now since I've done so many cruises with so many different lines, it's, I've come to know so many people on board. So now I would much rather hang out with my friends than go out with the guests.
Right. That makes sense.
And between contracts, when you go back on a ship, sometimes do you see the same staffers and the same crew? And you're like, yay, you get to reconnect and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So it was just a few weeks ago, I was jumping on a ship in Reykjavik. And went to the port and I see my ship, which was New Statendam, Holland America New Statendam. And then I looked to the side. I was like, but that's Holland America Rotterdam. And I have so many friends on that ship. So, I was just seeing all of these people all over the port. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh, that's so cool. I mean, that's a great feeling. And that's nice because when you take your contracts, I'm sure you're like, oh, I'm going to run into people that I know. Versus, starting fresh and, you're making new friends. It's nice to have that comfort feeling. I'm sure it's the same way as when you do a show, you feel more comfortable in a theater that you performed in before. There is a little bit of that as well. Over the years, cruise ships change, Is there any things you like about the changes that are happening? And now it could be anything from restaurants to technology. For us, it's definitely the internet's a little quicker,
Yeah. What I love about Holland America Line is that we get to get the Starlink internet for only $20 a week. Fantastic.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
that's
fantastic.
I think we spent more on our cruise than we did, with internet back in the day. It's expensive, or it might still be, but, it's come a long way where it's cheaper now and it's better quality. But that's part of like just the technology changes. Have you noticed the technology changes within the ship or even the different types of restaurants changing around you?
Mm-hmm. It's very different depending on which line you're on. So my favorite restaurant for Holland America is called Tamarind, which is an Asian restaurant. Fantastic food. And then my favorite one on Celebrity is what is it called? The Petit Chef. Have you been to that one?
Oh, yeah, Petit Chef. Yeah. Where I think we have not been on it, but we're going on it. But is that the one where the plates, they have they change and they do animations on the plates, right?
It's like a hologram
that concept
thing.
is amazing. Yeah. We're excited to see that in person. But different things they introduce on cruise ships where we've noticed that on some of the recent ships we've been on, they've done away with the big dining rooms. They don't even have them anymore. They've created small restaurants, making them more intimate and, changing the themes of the restaurants, which is kind of interesting. I guess they have to go with the times and what's working, what's selling. Fortunately for you, you get to experience that. Do you find yourself going to the restaurants or more of the downstairs where the crew hangs out to eat with some of the crew? Do you do a mix of both?
Yeah, I avoid the crew mess.
Ah.
I mean, they still have amazing food and all of that stuff, but when you're on a cruise, I feel like I have to take so much advantage of all the stuff that I'm being given because they pay me to be there and I get to see the world and, why not experience this entire beautiful thing that we have? Especially now, since I'm a twin mom. I have twins who are 2.5 years old, so I'm very busy back home. So it's very nice to go out on a cruise and go to the dining room to have breakfast and sit there with a big pot of coffee. And what the best thing is? The coffee never gets cold. It never gets cold.
Isn't that the truth? I'm a big coffee
trick.
person, and I say, how do they heat this stuff 24/7? Even in the cup, That's a good magic trick they got right there, right?
It is.
The changes we see are just like they're coming fast because even introducing some of the big ships, which I'm sure you've seen, Royal Caribbean with their Icon of the Seas. It's like a city, it's a giant ship. Do you prefer the smaller ships or the larger ships?
Oh, that's a great question. Right now, my favorite ship is Holland America Rotterdam. And its sister ships are Koningsdam and also New Statendam, so they look the same, but Rotterdam feels like home to me. And I love it so much because it has all of the same like old feeling of the big dining room, 2 floors or 2 decks, and then people are still wearing the uniforms that we were used to and all of that stuff. I love that. And the theaters carry around 1,000 people. But of course, the technology is completely new. So they have LED screens coming all around you, and they have a keyhole stage so they can bring down and up the end of the stage, which is perfect for me.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, because right now I'm not allowed to bring people up on a stage on Holland America due to the, what is that called? The ADA compliance something. I don't know what that's called. But
that's interesting.
Yeah, and I don't really know if and when they're gonna change this, but it happened maybe 2 years ago, and this was crazy because I was just about to go on stage. Like, we have done the technical rehearsal, I was ready to go on, and like 5 minutes before they let the guests in, the entertainment director like knocks on my shoulder and he goes, "Oh, just so you remember, there's no people on stage, yeah?" And then he walks away. And I was like, "Are you joking? Like, my show is an interactive magic experience, and I can't bring people on?" So I was like, whoa.
How did you handle that?
I said no, and I'm going to do it this anyway, and then we can have a discussion about this moving forward.
Good.
Because nobody told me. And he was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll allow it for now." And so I did the shows with people on stage. And then afterwards, I ended up talking to the fleet manager. And I said, I love working for you guys, but I can't be on this ship anymore. Because if I'm on like New Statendam or if I'm on Rotterdam, we can lower the thing. So I have a big floor, and that's not considered a stage. So people can come up on the floor and we can still do the same show.
Oh, interesting. That's really neat. Yeah, because your show is based around that. Yes. So I can't see how they can tell you, okay, and then you're like, what am I supposed to do? Create a whole nother show in about 3 seconds? You know, that's
right.
That's not going to happen. Well, good for you for standing up for yourself. You know, that's, you know, because sometimes you get those directors that are like, you know, it's their way and that's it. But, you know, especially on your type of show, you can't allow that. Have you found to be any challenges, you know, performing or just being on a ship or even, you know, staying in touch with people from home? What are some of the challenges that you find when you go on it and take a contract?
Oh, that's a big question and a lot of things to say. One crazy thing that happened a couple of months ago was mid-show, I was sitting down on my table, or at my table. I had 2 kids with me sitting there. We were doing close-up tricks and we were using the camera. And all of a sudden, the theater goes dark. And if you are in a theater and it goes dark, something terrible has usually happened. And we're in the middle of the sea. And I was like, okay, so guys, are we okay? Asking the people in the booth. And they're like doing a flashlight thing on me. And this has never happened before, of course. Like all the things went dark except for one spotlight and the camera. So I was still in light and we could still see the camera on the big screen. And then the cruise director came on, like the voice of God, and he was like, "We're experiencing some difficulties with the technical stuff or whatever." And then the audience was like, you know, laughing like nervously because we had no idea what was happening.
Right.
And I still don't know what happened, but it just went down. And then I asked the audience, "Is it okay if we do this in the dark?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." So they managed to manually move the spotlight so the audience could at least see what I was doing. And we ended the show that way, and it worked perfectly. But sometimes things happen. And I think this also sets apart the pros from the people who are like still rookies. Because if this was my first contract, I would be panicking. But since I've been on this ship so many times, I know all of the people backstage and everybody up in the booth. So there was like a conversation instead, like, "Can we do this?" And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely, let's do it." Whereas the first couple of years, I would probably be like, "Okay, guys, let's cancel the show," you know?
Yeah, because it just throws you off as a performer. Because even like, you know, so I'm a drummer. So, you know, when we wear our ears, sometimes we'll have a technical difficulty, and sometimes there's a track in the ear. So if it goes off, being a drummer, you're like, "Whoa, what just happened? Where am I going? You know, what am I doing?" So it throws you off. But doing it for so many years, you know what to do and how to jump around different things. And, you know, you're right. That's why I always say getting on a cruise ship to get your craft down is not a bad thing to do, you know. And I'm speaking more for, you know, any kind of performers, you know. But you have to actually be good to be able to get that contract, you know. You know.
It's so true. A lot of the performers we've talked to, number one thing they say is like cruise ships, like working on land, you get better and better and better, and your show gets better and better. But if you do a couple contracts on a cruise ship, your growth is more like exponential like this, because you were thrown so many unexpected things and audiences that you would never have to otherwise perform for. And you just become so much more well-rounded. So yeah, that's always like, go work on a cruise ship if you want to become like the best of the best.
Definitely. And it's been great for me too, because I use LinkedIn a lot for my own marketing. So every time I'm out, I'm taking photos of me on a stage, me with the boat, and, all of that stuff just to promote what I'm doing. Because all of a sudden they're seeing that, oh my God, she's international now. We have to book her for the thing. And they do.
Yeah. And that's something I want to hear. What is the latest, greatest that you're working on? We talked a lot about the cruise ship stuff, but tell us a little bit about your own business and what you're working on, what you have coming up next. Some of the things I've seen online look amazing. Like I said, we saw that you have written some books.
Yes.
And so let's talk that up for a second.
Yeah, well, that's the latest and greatest thing I've done in my life. I wrote a book, which was crazy. It's called The Business Side of Show Business, How to Make a Living Doing Magic. And
I love that.
Before we jumped on this call, actually, right next to me here is the contract that was sent from a publisher in London, because he read the book, because it's currently just an ebook, and he read it, and he was like, this applies for public speakers, musicians, TV hosts, all the people who work on a stage. And he was like, can I please make this a global phenomenon? And I was like, sure. Fantastic
wow,
news.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
No, and that is so important because, like I was saying, so much time is spent on crafting and honing your craft to become the best of the best. And there's this whole other 50% that you're kind of getting into new. How do you promote yourself and how do you get that first paying gig and setting up your pricing? So many people underprice themselves and then it's not sustainable. They come up with a business model that they can't sustain. Then they're picking up a second job and then doing the showbiz stuff on the side, which never really works out because you have to go, all in. So that's a great book. Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's awesome because I was going down the rabbit hole of your website, of, Instagram, just all your stuff. And I was like, I look up and it's like 4 hours later. I'm like, I'm still there. But you have so much going on. I'm curious, I do want to hear more about what you're working on. But also in my mind, I'm thinking, how do you manage not only when to take a cruise contract, but your own home life and your personal life with all the business stuff going on,
I think if you ask me this question, the answer you're going to get is very different from the one you're going to get from my partner.
Right.
So as I mentioned, we have twin boys, and I went back on cruise ships when they were 6 months old. So I've been back. I was back very early. My first show back since having them was when they were only 3 weeks old. And we have to remember, as we're recording this, they're 2.5. So they were born in November 2021. So it was, end of pandemic times.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the market just opens up. And I have been bored for 2 years. There was no work for me.
You're like, boom, get out.
Yeah, squeeze them out. I actually had a gig booked 3 days after they were born, but I did cancel that one.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I had a backup. But yeah, so how do I balance it all? First of all, I only do cruises during the summertime because I work the corporate market back home. So I do the cruises this year I started a little earlier. I started in April this year and I'm going until October. But usually it's more like end of May until beginning of August-ish. And then before the pandemic, I was doing all year round. But since now I've become one of the largest names in corporate entertainment here in Sweden, I charge so much more money here than I can ever get on a week on a cruise. So for me, it doesn't make sense to be opening my calendar for a full year. So instead, I only open it up for a couple of months a year or 4 to 5 months a year, depending on, the season of life, I guess. And then I do the corporate market back home. So that's how we try to balance it. Because as you were mentioning, Rachel, before, it's, we're going up very steep when we go on a cruise. This is, if I want to be the next David Copperfield, I have to make sure that I am the best of the best. And as we did touch on before, I am a woman in a very male-dominated industry. And if I want to be the best, I have to be even better than the guys have to be. Because unfortunately, that's what it's always been like for women in entertainment. So that's a very important thing for me too. Even if I want to be home with the kids or whatever it is, I have to be on my top of the game. Otherwise, I'm going to be forgotten in a couple of years.
That applies to, I think, a lot of people that are trying to move their field up or their craft up. You have to always be outdoing yourself, not even for the competitors out there, but your own craft, and reinventing yourself.
And as an entertainer, it's so important to come up with multiple revenue streams and not just have all your income come from one, like corporate events or just cruises, because industries can change. Like the pandemic was a big thing, and being able to do virtual shows. So the more like revenue streams that are different that you can come up with, the better. So it is trying to spread it all out and do cruise ship contracts here and then corporate stuff here and then consulting. Let's not forget all of the consulting that you do to help entertainers really make a full-time living at their craft.
Yeah, because that's something that I noticed when I wanted to go all in. There was nobody to ask. There were no books about this. And if I tried to ask somebody a question, they would give me like the cold shoulder. They're like, yeah, but I'm not going to share my business secrets with you.
Right.
And we're not that many magicians. That's just all entertainers, of course, a lot of entertainers. But they're not that many magicians. And we are all very different. So if you tell me how to get a gig, it's not like we're going to be competing, against the same stuff always. So that was something that I wanted to do very early on. I wanted to dedicate my social media and my consultations to helping others reach the goal. And the number I hear people say a lot is that they want to earn $10,000 a month. And if you just do the math for a second, like if you charge $1,000 per show, then, you have to double check. Can you do that amount of shows in a month to make it work? Or do you have to increase your pricing? Like if you take $2,500 per show, you only have to do 4 shows a month. That's, reasonable. That's something you can do.
Yeah.
But if you want to charge $250 per show, there's just no way of you'll be able to do that.
And
what
that's
is
the
that,
scariest part is whether you are a marketing consultant or starting your own business. It's that moment of, I think people get in a trap that they go cheap to undercut. And I have found that that's just like the quickest way to race to the bottom. It's just trying to be cheaper than everyone else. And it is unsustainable. You just can't, you will burn yourself out having to work that many gigs to earn the money. But you get trapped because at that price, you're getting gigs, but you're also getting the most difficult clients. The ones that pay the least are the ones that are going to suck all of your time and your energy. Not always. There are some really great clients, but, making generalizations. But you almost get in that kind of groove. And the fear is if I increase my prices, all my business will go away.
Yeah.
And so to have a support system like you to really walk them through how to do that successfully and not get into like the fights at the bottom in the first place is really, really valuable.
Yeah, so one thing that I teach all of my clients or people that I consult for is to, instead of going down in price, always go up in value. So if you're already there, offer to host the event or offer to do 20 minutes of close-up for the executives or whatever it is. You can always add things on instead of, removing the money that you're supposed to get. So let's say you're quoting a client $3,000 to do a show. And they're like, oh, no, our budget is $2,000. So instead of you saying something like, oh, okay, I'll match it, then check if there's something, if they can't go up in price, like if they do not have 3,000, see if there's anything else of value that you can get in return. Let's say they have a professional photographer there, or it's a big company that has a magazine or a newsletter, or they're huge on social media. There's always something to be gained for you as well. So see if there's something there you can exchange for value. Like in photos, that's the number one thing that I feel like entertainers are missing out on. Because if it's a big event, of course there's going to be a photographer there. So always ask for the direct contact with the photographer. And if they already paid for the photos, might as well be able to get them to you as well.
Yeah, because you can use photos, can last forever. And you can definitely market yourself on, especially in today's world. You can put photos together as a video. You can put them as still posts. I mean, just the marketability of just having a collection of photos, we're about the same thing as well. I have to ask, because I know we're running a little bit out of time, but who are some of your favorite magicians. Do you
Rob
have any
Zabrecki.
favorite? Who?
Rob Zabrecki.
There you go. And and do you have any magicians that you are friends with that you can talk to about the business? I'm talking more in the level of like, hey, I see this person. I would like to find out the secrets, no pun intended, of how did they get to the level of performing that they're at and getting paid what they're getting paid. Are there people in the industry that you see, or not really? I'm there and I know all the secrets.
Here in Sweden that are charging, that he's charging more than me, but he has been doing this since the end of the 80s or 90s, beginning of 90s maybe. He charges more than I do. And I think he might be the only one, because I've made sure to make my product as unique as possible. Not only am I a woman, but I travel internationally. I've done TEDx talks because I wanted to reach that level of, authority and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that has definitely helped me increase my pricing and authority, both for the public, but also for magicians. So that's why they're coming to me now and reading my book and getting my consultations and going to take my courses. But when it comes internationally, I do occasionally meet up with David Copperfield, and I meet up with, Shin Lim and Colin Cloud, who are always like in Vegas and stuff. So I can always ask them, but I don't think they're they're in America. It's such a different.
It's completely different. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And me being a musician, I always like to see, what producer can I learn from that's doing something on a different level than me? So I create a network of people that I can network with, and I'm sure it's the same. But you're at a level now that, you're just trying to get to that next level for your own, whatever it might be, whether it's your shows or whether it's, marketing your book, which congratulations, that's a great call to get today. I'm so excited for you. But on that topic, what can we tell our listeners, our viewers, what you have coming up?
Well, I'm going on another cruise. Woohoo!
Which one is that?
I'll be going on, and 2 more this year. I'm going on Holland America Line Rotterdam in August and in October. So depending on when you're hearing this, maybe the October one is closer to you. That would be amazing to see you all there, of course. It's a fantastic line. And then we're talked about the book already. But then I'm really excited to get back to corporate work again, because I've been home with the kids now for a couple of weeks. And I love them to death. But truly, I'm a better mom. I'm a much better mom, actually, when they have been going to school all day. And
right. And plus, it's probably good for your head to get out of the house a little bit,
Oh, yes.
and work on your craft. No, and can you tell our audience where they can find you, all the places they can find you if they look you up?
Well, they can find me on all social media platforms. I am most active on YouTube and Instagram, and you can find me at Ravn Magic. So that's RAVN Magic. It's Raven without the E. I know it's confusing, but it's RAVN. It's a great name. So ravnmagic.com, and you can find me at carolineravn.com or ravnmagic.com. So it depends on what you want. If you want to book me for a show, I would recommend you to go to the carolineravn.com. And if you want to take consultation hours or buy my book, you will go to the ravnmagic.com.
Now, Rachel, I know that we have so much more to talk to her about.
Like, we didn't even talk about her gorgeous, and I'm talking gorgeous people playing cards. She sold over 30,000 copies of this. They are so unique. They've won awards like Best Deck for Magic, Best Deck for Poker Play. So even if you're a poker player or you're a card player, these things are spectacular.
So what you're saying, Rachel, is we would love to have her back. And if she would love to come back, and we're going to talk more. Chapter 2. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. That was a great episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Great guests. We're super excited. Each week, we're going to bring you a new interview with cruise staff featuring entertainers, cruise chefs, cruise directors, bartenders, whoever we can find, as well as cruisers themselves that tell their individual stories. And we're going to have special guest celebrities. Theme cruises are super big, so we're going to be interviewing a bunch of people. But Rachel, tell them what they need to do to be notified each week.
What do you mean do? They should have did. So if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. That way you don't miss any future episodes. And if you want to watch some of the previous episodes, the best place to do that is our website. And that is cruiseshipexplorers.com.
Okay, everybody, you heard it, cruiseshipexplorers.com. Join us each week. We're super excited. Till the next time, see you then.